Today I want to talk to you about the 5 love languages, and while this may be a good concept in theory, and I definitely don't think it's a bad concept, I think a lot of people use it in the wrong ways, with the wrong mindset, with the wrong approach, which actually creates a lot more problems than it does solve. And this is true when I was learning this concept for the first time early on, but also true for a lot of my clients as well when they first join the program. We have to undo a lot of this programming and the way they've been looking at the 5 love languages in a different way too. So I want you to stick around to the very end of this video because I want to show you the 4 ways that people use it wrong and what you can do instead to start to remedy the relationship and take it to a better place here. And in case this is the first time you're watching my video, guys, my name is Geoffrey and I help men in long-term relationships or in marriages with the right skills and knowledge to be able to design a thriving relationship on your own, especially if you're on the brink of a divorce right now or a separation right now. So if you want more content on this topic, be sure to subscribe to this channel and also click the bell button as well to be notified when I post new videos every single week. And before I begin this video too, guys, I also want to let you know that the masterclass on the 5 proven steps to rebuilding your relationship from the ground up is still open. So if you want to join me in that masterclass, or if you want to submit your application for the Relationships Revival program, then be sure to stick around to the very end of this video for that announcement on how you can join both those things. So the first mistake that people make is they fall into what we call the square peg in a round hole syndrome, guys. And to understand this a bit deeper, when people are looking at the 5 love languages, they're really using it to really define who they are, what they want, the types of love they want, what they want to receive and what they want to give, but also what their partner wants to receive and give as well. Now, this is not a problem if your partner is exactly the same as yours. But if you're married to a different person, a different human being, most likely that person's love language is going to be very different from yours. You're going to value things that she doesn't. She's going to value things that you don't really value, you don't really look at, etc. Now, when you are very similar, then great. You are able to freely give and receive the same love language because you guys are very, very aligned here. But if it's different, if the order is different, if the scale is different, if the affinity to each is different, then that creates problems. So what we need to understand first is that, usually whatever that is low on our list is something that we haven't really valued in our life. In fact, it may be sometimes like some things that we have rejected in our life as well. So for example, for me back then, it was words of affirmation for me. Affirmation for me was very low on my list. I never really valued it. I never really gave it to people. I never really thought about it. And it felt unnatural, in fact, for me to give it. It felt unnatural for me to receive it. That's why it was low on my list in the first place. Now, the problem with my relationship was that my partner, for Samantha, for her, the words of affirmation was very high on her list. And so, we did the exercise together and we started to discover, okay, what's her love language? Oh, affirmation is number 1. So then the next step was clear. Okay, I need to give it. But as the person who's giving it, this made a lot of problems for me. Number 1, the biggest problem was that I found myself forcing myself to give affirmation when it felt very unnatural to me, when it felt like work to me, it felt very difficult to me. So I was trying to, again, fit the square peg in a round hole in a way. And because it felt very unnatural to me, then whenever I was giving it in a very ingenuine way, in a very ineffective way, in a very unemotional way, just going through the motions of it. And I would also often forget to do it. This action of giving affirmation is not something that's been programmed in me, so I always feel like I need to do better on this. This is the perspective of a giver. On the receiving side, though, I realized that my partner also wasn't getting what she needed. So not only when I was not doing it, because it wasn't natural to me, she was being robbed of this love language, but whenever I do give it, it seemed very ingenuine, it seemed very forced. You can sense that it's actually very hard for me to do it, that I'm not feeling it, that I'm not saying it with emotion, that I'm just going through the motion. And she starts to not be able to feel it too. And the way she described this was almost like getting a gift out of someone who's giving it to you out of obligation, right? They're just going through the motions, they're doing it reluctantly. It doesn't make them feel good, it doesn't make them feel like they want to do it, but they just do it because they're your friend. The same thing here. She felt like I was giving all this affirmation, but it wasn't because I wanted to give it. It felt comfortable to me, it felt natural to me. But it's because out of obligation, because I was supposed to do it as her partner. Now then what happens is when my partner said that to me, I would feel like I was trying very hard, but I wasn't feeling very appreciated. And the more this happens, the more embittered I felt, the harder it was actually for me to give that love, give the affirmation. And so you can see here how this starts a very, very bad cycle eventually, where it creates more work for both parties, more pressure on me to give what is not natural to me, more pressure for my partner to receive what's not given in a natural way. And then the embitterment grows as neither of us are being able to give or receive. And the more and more we feel like we're not compatible. And this cycle is not just what I'm trying to give. My partner was also trying to give me my love language in her way, trying to fit that square peg in a round hole. And the same pattern was going on for her life as well. So embitterment here is growing for both sides. The sense of work, the relationship becoming a chore increases. And you can see how this cycle happens. So that's the first trap. Now the second trap that you can fall into is what we call the illusion of rigidity syndrome. And this starts because when people use the 5 love language, they're really trying to get a better understanding of who their partner is and who they are. But their understanding is a very static understanding of their partner. So for example, you say, okay, what's your love language? Rank them. And they overgeneralize it to be, oh, this is your love language, no matter what time of day, no matter what time of night, no matter what stage of your life, etc. This is your personality. So they assign it as if that's a personality, that's your personality, my personality. So we define who each other are, and then we assume that that definition is static. But in reality, people are very, very dynamic. People are dynamic on a very macro scale. So for example, when you're single, before you get married, your love language may be different than when you got married. Your love language may be different again when you have children. So on the macro scale of your life, your love language changes, fluctuates all the time. But it changes also on a micro level. For example, if I just wake up in the morning on a weekend and everything is chill, maybe acts of service is not the love language that I want. But maybe if I'm stressed and I'm inundated with work, the acts of service now goes up again. Right? So it changes not only on a macro scale, but also on a micro scale, even on an hour-and-hour basis. So what happens with a lot of my clients and myself back then was that we would discuss the love language and we would say, okay, great. Now I have a better understanding. I feel more hopeful about the relationship because now I know what to do, what to say, what you appreciate, what you don't appreciate, etc. And vice versa for your partner. But then let's say tomorrow comes or the next day comes and your partner's situation has changed to where now whatever was ranked high for her is not ranked high anymore for her. So you give her the love language that you think she's looking for, but then that's not necessarily the love language she's looking for at that moment. So as a giver here, the odds that you're giving the wrong types of love language is going to be very high, and it's going to make it very difficult for your partner to receive it. But your partner can never really express this. She can never really tell you, oh, that's not the love language that I need or want, because your understanding, again, is that this is rigid. And she will struggle to understand too on why it's not hitting her correctly. So for the giver side of things, the giver will tend to feel a lot more embittered, a lot more confused, a lot more just unappreciated, underappreciated. And the receiver will also feel confused, feel guilty on the question of why am I not resonating with this? What's wrong with me as well? And this is not just happening for the love that you're giving to your partner, but the love that your partner is giving to you sometimes will be the same too, where she thinks you need something, but it's not what you need in that moment. And so she gives the wrong type of love. You don't acknowledge it. She feels embittered. She feels underappreciated. You feel confused. You feel guilty. And this cycle just keeps going together symbiotically here. Then you can see here how this creates that same feelings of embitterment as we discussed previously, but also the worst thing that happens sometimes is that one or both partners will eventually start to just settle, to just fake your way or lie to yourself by saying to your partner, for example, oh no, I accept the love that you're giving, when you actually don't feel the love that you're receiving. And this is eventually the reason why our relationship got very stale, very chore-like, very just fake, where people just say things, they're saying that they love each other, they care about each other, but they don't feel it anymore. That's a big problem. And this kind of starts in this tiny little cycle like this. So the relationship over time will feel very unsustainable, where one person tries and harder to give, the other person tries harder and harder to receive something that's not there. There's a lot more dissatisfaction, a lot more guilt from both parties. And then you eventually give up. You eventually say, we're not compatible, maybe we're not meant to for each other, etc. If the love language can't fix us, then nothing can fix us. And over time, as I look back into my relationship, I found myself saying a lot, for example, what do you want from me? Like, just tell me what you want. Just tell me what you want. Tell me what you're looking for. I can't give it to you if you don't tell me what you're looking for. And then my partner was saying more and more, I don't know what I want. So if you're seeing a lot of the same patterns here, it could be that you're falling for this rigidity illusion as well. And the third pitfall is what we call the overgeneralized confusion syndrome. And what we mean here is that we need to understand that studies, any research that you do, any scientific research that you do, like the 5 love languages, it's a study, which means that it works when you're talking about a population, but it doesn't work when you're talking about a sample, one sample, which is in this case is your partner. So for example, you could do a study around, here's the 10 things that men want. And the study could be very true. in that most men do want those things. And so if you overgeneralize to a population, then that study works. It's true. But if you start looking at the individual, you start to see that every individual is different. Every individual is nuanced. So for example, what the general men might want or like, you might not like those things in the form that people generally like them, for example. But when people are studying the 5 love languages, they often miss this fact that the 5 love languages is a study. It's an overgeneralization. So the biggest mistake that I see people make is that when they study this stuff, they take everything they learn as face value to say like, oh, my partner wants this, so let me give her this. Let me give her in this way, and the book tells you how to give it, and you give it in that way as well. So basically, you start to follow this study very, very blindly. So the biggest consequence of that is that you'll begin to give the wrong types of gifts. For example, for acts of service, my partner valued acts of service and affirmation. I was basically doing the acts of service and affirmation that the book told me to do, but it wasn't really what she was looking for, what she had in mind. But because I was so overgeneralized like this, oh, all acts of affirmation and all acts of service is the same, then I end up giving a lot of the wrong ones for her particular case, for her particular preference, etc. But even if it's correct, even if you do give the correct gift, I found that I was also giving the gifts very ingenuinely, in a very impersonable way, because I was just doing something that someone told me to do, and not because I wanted to do it because it was my idea. So the example that we gave to each other back then was that, okay, imagine if I need to tell you to give me a hug, for example, to give me some physical touch before you give me some physical touch. If I don't tell you that, it won't even come to you to do it. Now, if someone were to hug you without you prompting them versus someone hugging you because you told them to, which one will feel more special? Obviously, the one that is unprompted. And the second example also is that which gift would be more valuable? A personalized gift that you know is meant for you, or is it just some generic gift that you buy from like a big box store? Obviously the first one. It's the same thing here. If you're just doing what was agreed upon, what this resource told you, yeah, sure, you can give the gift, but it's not going to be landing as hard as if you gift it in a personalized way, with your own flavor, with your own twist to it, with your own desire, etc. And number 4 is what I call the Constructive Syndrome. It's basically when people use the 5 love languages, when they study it, they're saying, give me more of what is highly ranked and give me less of what is lowly ranked. But when you do this, you're really robbing yourself of the full spectrum of possibilities here. And a great analogy for this is, there are 2 types of people that I see in this world, right? There's one type who is, their band of what they can appreciate is very wide. For example, when it comes to films, when it comes to music, when it comes to food, when it comes to just personal preferences, they're very open-minded. They just you can place them in anything, and they seem to enjoy themselves. Well, there's some people whose set of preferences is so low. They live in the mindset of I only want to expose myself to what I like, and I want to get out of what I don't like. And so you often find these people very judgmental, very critical of everything they see, they watch, they go to a movie, they say that they don't like it because it doesn't fit their particular criteria, particular preferences in that way. And I feel like if you are basically saying, these are the types of love that I can give and receive, and these are the types of love that is not really meaningful to me, you're doing the same thing there, where you're limiting yourself to this band, where your partner could be giving you so much love, but you can't even see it, you can't even feel it, you can't even appreciate it anymore. And this is actually, of the 4, this will be the worst one and the most insidious one because this kills your relationship in a very silent way. But if you ever find yourself in a position where your relationship is kind of stale, or it doesn't feel exciting anymore, doesn't feel new anymore, doesn't feel very loving, etc., this could be a massive part of it. Because when you constrict yourself to that bubble again of what you can accept, what you don't accept, then you can never really do things that are new. You can never really do things that are different, that you're not used to. And so that novelty wears off and the staleness begins to replace that over time. And this, when it works synergistically with the other 3, you can see how this actually worsens the square peg in a round hole syndrome. This worsens the rigidity syndrome. This worsens the confusion through generalization syndrome. It worsens all the other 3 as well. So let me pause here and really summarize for you the 4 ways, for the 4 pitfalls of what happens when you use the 5 love languages in the wrong way. And leave a comment below, guys, if you find yourself relating to one or more of these 4. Because in my relationship, for a lot of my clients, they related to all of this as well, right, in the relationship. Now, the next question goes, what can we do about it? How do I actually use it correctly in this case? So the first thing to do is change entirely the paradigm of how you use the 5 love languages. So most people use it again to define who they are today, kind of a snapshot of their identity, what their preferences are, etc. But for me, my partner, we don't use it that way. For my clients, they don't use it that way anymore. We use it as an indicator of who we need to become. So for example, if we do this test and we realize that, oh, some are very lowly ranked, some are very highly ranked, right? We appreciate some, we don't appreciate others. That's not our cue to say, oh, give me more of what's highly ranked and give me less of what's lowly ranked. But that's our cue to say, okay, I need to learn how to appreciate the stuff that are lowly ranked so I can create a more rounded approach, a rounded view of all 5, so that I can give all 5 and I can receive all 5. So it's almost like seeing this as a litmus test of what's your strengths, what you already appreciate, and what's your weaknesses, what you don't appreciate right now, and learning how to appreciate what you don't appreciate. Now, when you do this, this gets rid of all of the 4 illusions here. It gets rid of the square peg in a round hole syndrome because you are really cultivating your ability to give all 5 and to also receive all 5 too. It removes the rigidity syndrome to where now if you need to give whatever forms of love you want to give, it doesn't feel like you need to force yourself to do it. It doesn't feel unnatural to do it. You can just fluidly flow along with it. It changes a lot of the overgeneralized confusion syndrome as well, because as you explore the parts that you haven't explored yet. For example, for me back then, I haven't explored affirmation. Once I explored it, I start to understand the deeper nuances of what it means to give affirmation. Well, if I never looked into it, I would never have found all those nuances. It removes the constructive syndrome as well, to where now you are again able to give and receive whatever forms of love that you can give or receive in a relationship. And so it becomes a more enriching relationship where every step of the way you feel the love everywhere you go, right? They're just showing it in different ways, but you feel it anyway. The second thing to do is to identity shift to really unlock yourself again. So again, I want to start this with a quote that says, true freedom and power is not about doing what you want and avoiding what you don't want to do, or getting more of what you like and avoiding what you don't like. You're forever enslaved by this tiny bubble of your likes and dislikes, your preferences, your opinions, etc. For me, for a lot of my clients too, true freedom and power is about being able to become whoever you want to become so that you can accomplish whatever it is you want to accomplish. So I want you to think about that quote very deeply. Because again, a lot of people use this test to define themselves. And they say, give me more of what I like and more of what I don't like. But again, it creates this constructive syndrome where it really robs you of so much enrichment you get from your relationship, from your life, etc. My partner was giving me so much love all day long. She was giving me affirmation, acts of service, in all these ways. But because those were things that I didn't appreciate, I didn't know how to see. All the gifts of my relationship were staring me right in the face, but I could never see it. I could never feel it. And what a shame, for my partner and for me as well. So we already made a video on this, on how to unlock yourself, how to identity shift. The first step to this is to really become antithetic and explore and expand your band of operation. And the best analogy that I can give here is really like a video game character. Imagine you're a video game character, right? And you know how the video game character has usually like a wheel of skills, where it's like agility, then your charisma, then your strength, whatever it is, right? Expanding your band of operation is like expanding all fronts of this. So when it comes to actually living life, you can actually be more fluid in the way you live life. In general terms, if you have, let's say, explored your compassionate side, your masculine side, your feminine side, then you can feel very comfortable at work when you need to be more masculine. But when you come home and you need to be more feminine, you can still feel comfortable as well. You're like water, you can fluidly shift. But if you have only, let's say, improved or worked on your masculine side and valued your masculine side and devalued your feminine side, then yeah, at work you're going to feel very comfortable. But when you go home, when you need to be feminine, you're going to feel very foreign and you're going to be embodying the wrong state, etc. Same thing here, right? If you have learned to really explore all 5 and value all 5 love languages to give and receive it, then it doesn't matter what you are needing to give or receive, you can do that. And number 3 is that I want you to understand that the 5 love languages shouldn't be the only tool that you use, but it's a supporting tool. They should be used in conjunction with other things. So for example, I want you to be able to use the frameworks and the internal shifts, for example, to have enough compassion, to have enough skill, to be able to conduct a conversation, to understand the deep nuances and the subtle nuances of your partner's love language, and to be able to spot the macro changes, but also the micro changes, so you can get rid of a lot of the pitfalls to be outlined earlier as well. To me, using the 5 love languages by itself is like using a hammer, but having no nails. right? You need to have all these complementary tools to make the job happen. So if you want to learn more about these frameworks, for example, these internal shifts, I encourage you to join my masterclass on the 5 proven steps to rebuilding your relationship from the ground up. In the masterclass, I'll show you all the exact steps that all my clients have used to get them to a point of almost near destruction in the relationship to where they are today, where they're in a thriving state here. And number 4 is that I want you to be able to adapt to fluidity and nuance as well. So understand that, most people, they see their relationship with their partner like being in a relationship with a robot, where they're like, okay, this is your personality, this is your static self, and that's it. That's what I understand you to be forever. But in reality, people are very dynamic. People change with circumstances, people change throughout the day, etc. So we need to be able to change our mindset around that and understand that, well, yes, the 5 love language is great. Those actually fluidly move in a micro scale and a micro scale, etc. And just having that expectation will really help you when you realize that what you know to be true yesterday may not be true today anymore. And you won't feel so confused or so frustrated by that. And number 5 is to love the process of discovering. The problem is that most people, again, they try to get to the finish line of discovering the 5 love language and then they execute it. But for me, I've learned to love the process itself and not really getting to the summit of finding the love language. I realize that the love language is something that we need to discover and continuously rediscover into a deeper and deeper and deeper state. That's the whole point of this. A great quote that I always keep in mind with me is that hiking, for example, is not about getting to the summit. The act of hiking is the actual act of hiking. Same thing here. People often think like finding the love language is to get to the summit, and they only care about this summit, but they miss the whole journey, the whole point of the journey, which is that the whole point of finding the love language is that you're trying to find the love language. That's the journey in itself, is the point. And if you look at a lot of my client stories too, to inspire yourself here, you'll see that one of the biggest things that they have to learn is to enjoy the journey by itself and not really getting to the summit. The summit is a byproduct of the journey. And from these client stories too, guys, you will see that creating this more positive cycle, abandoning the old cycle and creating the more positive cycle, it really starts with one person. So again, if you want more information on this, I'll give you some links to my client stories above my head here. But that's it for the video, guys. I hope that video was helpful for you guys. In the meantime, guys, if you want more content like this one, I'll leave you with more videos here with more content on how to create a thriving relationship for yourself. For now, guys, I will see you in the next video.